Good morning, everybody. It's COOLA from Option Scouts on another edition of the pre-market prep. It is Monday, the July 28th. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I hope everybody had a great weekend. We spent some time at the lake and the river. Anyways, quick shout out to our sponsors, Black Box Stocks and Gamma Edge. Without those guys, we would not be able to provide this for you every single day. So shout out to those guys. Make sure you show a little love and support to them. Use our affiliate links so they know that we're out here spreading the love for them and getting ROI from us. Okay. So on Friday, we saw a nice little push up on SPY. Currently sitting right around that 6,400 level, right around it in pre-market. We're getting that distribution to the upside here. We talked about, that recovery hammer down here, and talked about how that was generally a really bullish sign, and we've just gotten distribution to the upside ever since then. So really nice move here. I think, everybody and their brother knew that we were going to run to 6,400. The real question is, will we get 6,500 now? Okay. So will we get 6,500? And everything is pointing bullish. Everything is up. But there is a screaming position there in regards to some negative delta right on the overhead. So a little spread there, but it's massive. It is massive. So probably draw us into it. And at that point, need to be watching for the rug to be pulled. It could be, we're getting close. We're getting close to a pretty strong sell day. Let's put it that way. Could happen this week. Could happen today. We'll dive into it when we look at the data. First and foremost, first of the week, let's take a look at the calendar. So we're looking at Monday. I guess there's nothing today. Tuesday, the big thing is JOLTS job openings. Pretty significant there. Seems like they have pretty much in line with last month, excuse me. ADP non-farm employment changes kind of goes hand in hand there. But this one right here, GDP is on Wednesday. This is going to be huge. Okay. So we saw a contraction in April, and this is our quarter over quarter. Okay. So they're expecting this to come in good. All right. If this comes in, say, soft, all right. So we had let's turn off the forecast. We had 2.3, and then we had negative 0.3, but we had negative 2.8, 2.8, 2.3. And then we had our negative print here at negative 0.3. So if we print another negative, that would have meant that we were in a recession, technically, right? And we'll see if that's going to be the case. We'll see if it prints negative, or let's see if they maybe backdoor a negative one later. But regardless, this has been one of the most outstanding gains in a in a recession ever, right? So pretty serious movement to the upside. But we'll see if this is going to be a big headline if this is negative. So just want to cover that a little bit. Federal funds rate, FOMC. So there is a ton of stuff on Wednesday. I mean, the volatility is through the roof. Okay. It's through the roof. It could be zigzagging. We could be 1 point up, 1% up, 1% down, zigzagging by the end of the day. Wednesday will be a fun day to trade. So if you're interested in volatility, you're interested in some nice plays or some very high upside, I would say take off Wednesday if you're working. Take off Wednesday and enjoy that. That's going to be a ton of action, all the way up until the buzzer, because this is just a crazy time. Okay, Thursday, of course, PCE. We'll have insight based on probably their statement there on how this is going to look. Okay. If he comes in very bearish, then you know that this is probably popping hot. But it'll go hand in hand with this. Most time we'll see some type of sell off or even just start rocketing from there. But this is a nice little area. So wouldn't be so surprised if we just kind of chopped over the next 2 days just based on data alone. And then we get our distribution from there. So average hourly earnings, my favorite report, non-farm employment change and unemployment rate on Friday. So there's a lot of things coming in. And PMI. I mean, this is a loaded week. Last week was soft, but this week is loaded. So expecting some volatility this week. We're in some VIX calls, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Let's do our data for the intraday. All right. Pull this over. This is going to be SPX. Full complex here is going to be call dominated. So virtually meaning that the trend is still up. Ceilings at 6,500 and the demand here is at 6,505. This is the spread that I was talking about. It's drawing us into that range, into 6,500 on the full complex. But in between there, of course, we got to go day by day. So as of right now, supply is at 6,420. Demand is at 6,350. So let's cue this up on our intraday. We talked about this. This is a fantastic view right here. We talked about our daily pivot here at 63.7 on Friday. And look at the support. Boom, 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 boom. Hit it and was just a climb all day. And we talked about how it would draw you into 6,400. And that resistance was right there. And we just got a little bit below it and just kind of sold down from there. But a lot of stuff over the weekend. A lot of influence from trade deals and stuff like that. So that is what's driving us today. So let me say 64.20 and 63.50 puts us right a little bit up here. And 63, what did I say? 63.50? Is that what I said? Man, my brain this morning's not on. It's not on. 63.50. So puts us right under that daily pivot, puts us right here at this low. So pretty large, right? Pretty large. I'll put our resistance up here. And our daily pivot will be 63.90. So that's tough though, because that's at a key level. I'm not going to mark it as the key level because 6,500 is going to be truly my key level that I want to put on here. 6,400 is a key level, but for emphasis on this, I need to put this up at 6,500 for emphasis because of the data. Okay. All right. 64.20 to the upside. Daily pivot is at 63.90, but that is going to be a tough little area because that's just going to chop everybody between 63.90 and 6,400. It's not ideal, honestly. Not ideal. And if I was to trade this day, which I probably will, I'm looking at this saying there's a little bit of indecisiveness here around a sub 6,400. To the upside, it looks pretty good. A little staircase going on, and full complex all the way to 6,500. So the trend still remains the same. Stay over the top of 63.90, which is where we are right now. Still remains bullish towards pushing towards 64.20 today. If we are, let's see where VIX is. VIX is at a little under. It's at 1510. So it puts us right around a little bit under 1%. So that puts us up to 64.41 and something similar here down to 63. So 63, both of these are within range of expectations of VIX implied. And nothing huge to the downside, no huge draws, no huge overhead. We have a little bit of overhead, but nothing crazy. Now let's take a look at SPY. Let's look for confluence here. Let me stretch this out before I switch this over. Stretch this out. Let's do this here. Because it looks as if we're going to open above it, I'm going to put this as support. And then I'm going to put support down here as well. Whoop. Okay. All right. And then SPY, full complex, call dominated. We started talking about how SPY started to catch a little bit of these hedges here. And you can see that the steam is running out of SPY just a little bit as we start seeing some of this grow. But SPX still remains positive. Not a crazy amount of contracts into today, but 640 to 635 on the low side. This isn't anything massive, but it is something you need to monitor between 640 and 635. So it's very similar to what we're seeing in regards to SPX. Very similar. So 640 puts us up here. Almost dotted that. Okay. Put this up here. Transitional daily pivot at 638. So it's pretty much Friday's high. And low side 635. So we'll crank this out of here and we'll go 635. Support is here. Okay. So as we stand right here, like I said, we're in bullish territory. You got to watch that 638 area, but SPX, the overlay here is different, right? So bullish pivot here for SPY, bullish pivot down here for SPX. So not a great zone regardless, because the top of our range is right here. You'd be buying on the top side in premium. And then down here, this is okay. This starts to get where I would look to limp in. And then of course we'd hammer it down here for looking for some type of bounce towards the pivot or the breakdown area. So that's what we're looking for here. So it still, like I said, remains bullish to the upside. If you're in some longer term, we talked about opening some swings for midweek. If you're in those, you're going to be looking great. But you need to be cautious of potential run up here and then get sold on. And that's my concern for today. So watch for some type of move up towards 640. And then once we get in this range, I really think that you need to watch for some type of sell down for confirmation. But if we do visit down in this range here early, then I don't mind playing the bounce here unless we really sell through both of these pivot zones. So like if we, let's say for example, we slip this early and come and test this, and then we rebounce, that's not a bad play for a call. But if we slip both of these, this is going to be an interesting area to go short on, as SPX has us going a little bit further than 635. That's a pretty good range right there, as you would probably put your stop right up in this range and look for the negative gex here to start to be resistance. Okay. So bullish for now, still remain bullish. You want to see it kind of hold this area right here. It's like I said, when you look at this in terms of say risk versus reward, it's no good. Okay. So this is one of those days you can say, that's why I said, if you get into this area, it's not super bad where you can look to try to hold the low side. This would be a decent RVR here. Okay. Your ideal is that you see an early flush or even a mid-morning flush and try to play that upside for the transitional area here, or even watch for the daily pivot or watch for a full rebound. And that's your ideal. Or we see the early push and then we short it up top here, looking to target daily pivot here, or all the way down to the downside. Okay. Okay. So let's look at NVIDIA. Where are we at? 175. We talked about this, of course, on Friday. Talked about this resistance being trapped between 175 and 170. It made the early push down towards its daily pivot at 172.5. And then ultimately got bought on, and we saw it get chopped and hold at 175. Nothing super entertaining here. We expected this to be kind of choppy, kind of not like no news here. Let's see what the data says now. So full complex, we're seeing it pick up in net gex here. So very much catching a lot of upside potential here. We're starting seeing 200 grow. This is substantial. Okay, we hadn't seen something like this in quite some time. 8-1, so that would be this week's expiration holds 28%, and then the next month holds 9/19 holds 15% of the contract. So decent amount of influence from both of those. So if you combine them, we look pretty good to the upside here, looking to target even as high as 185 on the full move here. But let's take a look at this week. 177.5 to 165. So that gives us a new breakout, new high here on NVDA likely. Okay. We'll move our resistance up here to 177.5. Daily pivot 172.5 remains the same. So decent RVR here. Any sell down initially into 172.5. You're looking to buy that up. The breakdown, like I said, is 165. That's to the downside. Here's 165 here, and we'll put support here, resistance up here. Okay, so you're bullish above 172.5. Looking forward to hold this. Wouldn't be surprised to see this run all these lows here, and then see if it wants to recover over the top of that. Let's say we open, strike the highs here, and then runs back down, and then tries to make that run up there. The contraries, just like we were talking about, if it runs early to 6, like we were saying on SPY, where it runs to 640, watch for that short right here at 177.5. But I really think if this thing starts breaking over the top of 175, we might see a break over the top of 177.5 for a gamma squeeze to draw us to 180. So you need to be very cautious of that. But sizing out is ideal in this range here for us. All right. Tesla, nice little news feed for the Tesla. We talked about virtually shorten near this 320 range. We talked about it running all the way back down towards 312.5 on Friday. So we're saying this is the decent short in this range, looking for the retest. It got the retest up in this range, and then ultimately just sold down. And we were waiting for 312, and a good portion of our members were able to take advantage of that and made over 500% on that play. So that was substantial. But where do we stand now, right? Where do we stand now? So let's pull it up. Tesla, full complex here, call dominated. Still a decent amount of shorts here. Not as many overhead here in regards. There are some overhead shorts here, but not as many as we've seen in the short-term past. Let me turn this on vibrate real quick so I can focus. 2 phones, so. All right. Looking at this here, we are call dominated in the short term, 300 to 320. The 320 wall is not substantial. It's more of a staircase effect here, where we just kind of get to it, find out what we're going to do. It's someone said it, if-then statement, and that's exactly. I always talk about coders. They're great at understanding the methodology that we look at. And it's because the if-then statement is perfect. If you don't understand that, go look it up. So we're saying if it breaks 320, then we can see 325. And this can just keep squeezing over 325 and try to make its way up towards that 350 range, right? So just like we saw here, 317.5, 315, 312.5 to 315 is kind of what we were talking about into Friday, but the actual gamma was at 312.5, and the moment we got over the top of that, it squeezed, right? Same thing can happen today at 320. You get another squeeze, you can start looking for this thing to try to pop. Biggest wall will be 325 after 320. Virtually at this high, and then you imagine that it would get stuffed, and maybe we create a sub range right here between 325 and 320. But let's mark out what we got here. 320, 300. It's virtually where we're at. I mean, we're just going to extend this up just a little bit more towards 320. So we're opening up right near the wall. So be interesting to see if we open and flush here. The daily pivots at 315. So I say flush, but you're going to catch support here at the gap fill. I think it's a pretty decent play to, let's put it this way. Okay. We know that a lot of retail buys on here. So you see this little, you could see it already, right? This little invert head and shoulders here. I like the initial sell here, rebound off our daily support to complete that invert head and shoulders to run at 320, and then potentially squeeze up to 325 and see if you do break through 325, or if we're going to get held up there and then we see some sub range here, and then maybe even kind of create something like that. So the only way that you'd go big position long here is if you're very tight at your 315. But again, we talk about this all the time. This setup does not favor traders here. Okay, this is very minimal in regards to RVR, so it has to be very tight. And I know people that will just sit, and I'm one of them, especially on futures, where it's like, you know, buy stops, sell stops. Virtually, if you're breaking underneath this, and then the automatic stop is just right above it. And if you want to break down or break up and never come back, because that's generally what we'll see, right? If it goes back underneath it, then boom, you're back in it. But it can stop you and stop you and stop you. But if your stop is only, you know, a few cents, and then you make it, you know, $20, we're not super concerned about that. So all I was saying is the range here to the downside is much more favored in regards to RVR, but it's not a huge draw here, and it's definitely is call dominated. Good amount of contracts here, and a pretty strong net gex for Tesla. So with good news over the weekend. So I'm not super excited to trade Tesla. I think if anything, if I was in some swings, we talked about getting in some swings right here at 300. If we're in some swings, I think you really need to monitor this 315 area. If you break 315 or break down through 315, I think it's okay to open some like weeklies short to stay under 315, see if it wants to roll back down towards 300, and then try to make another bounce off of that zone here. So keep an eye on that right there, but we're still bullish biased on Tesla over 315, looking for this thing to test 320 and potentially squeeze into that 325 zone today. Okay, that is going to cover it. I want to do a quick little plug. If you guys are not on our Rawstocks, then you need to get in it ASAP. We are officially going to be dwindling out the $1 promo. So if you guys are interested in trying out what we do and seeing our trades with our 5 analysts that we have constantly analyzing the market, breaking down the market using dealer data, not any crazy, you know, I don't know what people are doing now. I see people doing all types of different wedges and, you know, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we use actual data, informed decisions. We even use some AI to create high probability trades. Just take all the emotion out, right? It's just virtually black and white. And so take a look at that. That's going to be at wap.com/rawstocks, or you can go to our website and get linked up from there. That's going to be rawstocksllc.com. Again, rawstocksllc.com. You can use code $1 at checkout to get your first month for $1. So, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe. And until next time, we'll catch you later.